Hey everybody, it's Nathan. We're back once again, and this time with a very special guest, Mara. I don't really think she needs any introduction. You guys know who she is. Uh, pro player at this point, basically content creator adjacent on every podcast ever known to man. Patreon, card altars. Doing great. How are you doing today, Mara?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I kind of just do a little bit of everything in the Fab community, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a good time, having a good day. Everything's been doing wonderful. Just kind of getting prepped for Chicago. I am very excited for Chicago this week.
Oh, really? Are you got some spice, or can we talk about it today?
I'm playing Tromai.
Oh, duh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, duh. All right. I forgot. I forgot what the tournament was. That's actually going to be really exciting.
Yeah, I am pretty excited. Living Legend is just such a fun format,
It's
and
such
I
a
get to play
crazy
Tromai
format.
again.
Do you think Dromai can do it in that
Yeah,
format?
absolutely.
Really?
Oh, of course it will. Yeah, I think it's
Really?
actually really funny. I was uh, I was really content to be just like flying under the radar,
Yeah.
and no one was prepped for it. And then I don't know if you saw the season 2 skirmish
Yeah.
results came out today, like and maybe an hour or two before this we just started recording.
Yeah.
And Dromai is the number 2 points winner in skirmish season 2 in LL. And I was like panicking. I was like, oh no, everybody figured it out.
Oh no. I actually, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that. Because I would have thought. I mean, I guess your biggest. Actually, you're right. You know, the two most scary decks, in my opinion, are Oldhim and Kano, and that's very good for Dromai. Okay. Wow. So you're pumped and you're ready. Does it feel good to be back on your main hero?
It does. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do love, like, I've kind of drifted around a couple of heroes. I've been playing a lot of Dash.io. I've been playing a lot of Vynnset, which we're going to talk about a whole bunch.
Yeah.
But man, there's something about just coming home, you know.
I feel it.
Dromai wasn't my first hero. Prism was, but Dromai was the first time I felt like I had like an identity in Fab. You know, Dromai was the first hero that I got really well known for, the first hero that I had real results with, and it was the hero that I really put, my heart and soul into that hero. So getting to kind of come back home is it's nice. It feels good, nice. And I'm excited for it.
Do you really enjoy the LL format? Have you participated in like LL events before?
Oh yeah, I've done a couple now. I love the format. It's so much fun. It is a Wild West format where like there's so many different things that are viable. Like I've been stressed and trying to figure out my sideboard. I'm like, how do you sideboard for everything? 15 different decks?
Yeah, you've all of the scariest decks ever known too, right?
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I wonder if over time this is going to become like the main format. You know what I mean?
I doubt it'll be the main format. I think CC is always going to be kind of the main format, but I love seeing LL as a secondary like big format. And actually, you talk about like all the scariest decks that have ever been in Fab. I actually think the coolest thing about LL is not that LL is the like Hall of Fame of the best decks in Fab. It's the decks that never got to exist. It is these decks that get access to tools that they didn't have when they were around. We're seeing, the Starvo decks now are running Electrostatic Somersault, and it is incredibly cool to see that deck being able to like chain these Electrostatic Somersault like back-to-back disruptive turns, things that they never had access to before.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We're seeing Aurora with Ball Lightning.
Yeah.
Like Ball Lightning Aurora is a very real deck because the synergy between Arc Lightning and Ball Lightning is incredible, and it's something that we've never seen in Classic Constructed.
Yeah, dude. Wow.
We saw the like 12 tome Kano deck.
That was crazy.
Yeah, and even like the Verdant's Kraken's Aetherbane deck that like never would have been able to like exist in CC.
Yeah.
I think those are the things that actually. Yeah, like I think those are the things that actually really excite me about LL is not just, hey, remember this old deck? How cool was it when it got to do its thing? It's, hey, check out these old things plus these new things, and let's find interesting ways to combine them into something new. And I love that so much.
It's a really cool perspective. I really like the way you looked at that. Like the way you put that down that's a really interesting perspective that I hadn't actually thought of before. It's like, you're getting to play old heroes, but they're kind of new. You know what I mean? Every
Yeah,
set
no,
that comes out,
absolutely.
they get a little bit more new as well.
Hmm.
I'm waiting for my blue sixes for Rhinar so I can play full Berserk Rhinar and LL. You know what I mean? That'll be fun.
Yeah, which Berserk KO is a thing in LL. Like
Yeah,
that's a
it's
thing you can
sick.
like. I mean, it's probably not quite as good in Rhinar, but like Berserk KO is absolutely an LL deck, and it's something
Yeah,
that we never got to see in CC, and
yeah,
it is kind of wild.
yeah. So you're prepped, you're ready, you're feeling good too. I mean, unfortunately, I guess there's a little bit of a spoiler happened with your hero of choice, but you're feeling good. Um,
I, I don't think there was a whole lot of secret about my hero of
yeah,
choice.
yeah. Um,
I think if anyone goes into this and doesn't expect me to play Dromai, they've never watched me play card games.
yeah. And is the secondary event, is that CC? I didn't
No,
look.
both LL.
Oh,
The
they're
the
both
the
LL. Wow.
the
Full
calling and
weekend
the
of
battle
LL.
hardened are both LL. Yeah, I think we have some
Wow.
CC. Like I think the armory and stuff on Friday is still CC,
Sure.
but yeah, the calling and the battle hardened are both going to be Living Legend.
Oh
So
my
we're going to get a
goodness.
whole lot of Living Legend this coming weekend.
That's gonna be really cool. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
I can't wait to watch. I
I'm
hope you do
excited.
really well.
I'm so excited.
And then so okay, you're back on Dromai. But for the Portland calling, right?
Hmm.
I saw you in the room. We had a quick discussion. I was like, all right, who are you on today? Who are you on? And you're like, you dropped an interesting hero choice, okay? A
Yeah.
hero I personally have believed in for a long time, and everybody called me an idiot. You know what I mean? Except for she got a lot better. I
Yeah.
believed in her a little too early. But you were on Vynnset. Um,
Yep.
how did that happen? Right? How did you even get there?
So I've actually like you say you believe in Vynnset a little too early. I've been a Vynnset believer for a while now too.
Yeah.
I do think when she came out she wasn't quite there,
Yeah.
but I started kind of brewing on Vynnset very very early. Turns out when you tell me that you can play any hero redline, you've got my attention.
That's
Apparently I just hate pitching.
hilarious.
Um, but yeah, so I've been brewing on various Vynnset builds for quite a while, and for the longest time they'd always kind of stayed relegated to my local armories, my more casual stuff.
Yeah.
Like she was just kind of missing a piece, but like she always felt really close. Like her play pattern is very powerful. I think that's always one of the things that like you can kind of fundamentally look at a hero like Vynnset and just be like, even if the cards aren't here to support it, the fundamental core thing that this hero does is powerful. Like it is an incredibly abusive thing. Like the entire RuneGate mechanic as a whole is wild. Being able to send these like one card nines, one card tens, these just very very above rate things. I think caught my eye very early as something that I wanted to kind of at least kind of be on the forefront of. I wanted to kind of keep a finger on the pulse and start kind of learning how this works,
Yeah.
so that like once the pieces click together, then like you're there. And it kind of happened. Like Rosetta just kind of gave us the things we need. Like I remember I was so excited. I was at the Rosetta world premiere
Hmm.
in Tampa.
Hmm.
And in my world premiere pack, I opened a Malefic Incantation and a Haunting Rendition.
Oh,
And I just remember looking at these two cards and I'm just like, I don't care about my sealed pool anymore. These are the cards I needed. This is Vynnset. This is the thing that Vynnset needed, was like these two cards.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Truly.
and then throughout the rest of the day, I got to see, like Deadwood Dirge. And like all the parts started just kind of falling into place. And the hero is good. Like,
And
um,
your variation was also like interesting, right? Different than I
mhm,
think a lot of the other Vynsets in the room took a little bit of a different approach. I remember when I first looked at the hero, I was thinking about how to break. I was looking more at the cute stuff. You know what I mean? Like
mhm,
eloquence tokens, like cheating things, like kind of doing these like weird, extra large one-time turns, which
mhm.
I don't think was necessarily like the right way to cook with Vynnset, because you're really just hoping for like a 1 in 100 scenario to happen every once in a while. But your list
Yeah.
was just so much more like, I'm just gonna cheat, you know?
Yeah. Um, it is funny. I think I've kind of started getting this reputation of picking up a hero and then making everyone who plays that hero hate me because I want to strip out all the fun part of the hero.
Yeah,
Uh,
you know.
I kind of did it with Dromai. I did it with Dash.io, and I think I kind of did it with Vynnset. Um, Something that I value whenever I want to look at a deck is consistency.
Mhm.
If I'm going to play a deck, especially at a competitive level, I'm looking at playing it in callings, in Pro Tours, in Nationals, these like 13,
Big.
14, 15 round tournaments. And you can't win those tournaments reliably on a hero that isn't consistent. If
Yep.
you're going in and saying, like, hey, I can sometimes do this really big, wild, overpowered thing, and then sometimes my deck just crashes and burns. Like, that's great to like maybe make day 2. But like if
Yeah.
you're looking to like actually go 14 rounds and you need to win, you know, minimum like 11 to 12 of those 14 rounds, like you can't have inconsistency decks. Um,
It's
and
just
so that's
true.
always
Yeah.
been something. Yeah. So it's always, and like I want to like quick asterisk. I don't want to say decks that are inconsistent are bad. Particularly like if you're looking to just like have fun and play your armory and you just want to just do the goofy fun thing, awesome. Go do the goofy fun thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love 75 damage turns as much as anybody. They're
Yeah.
they're great and they're awesome, and especially at small things where like there's not a lot of stakes, go do those things. Um, but when I'm looking for these bigger events, I want to take the core of a thing and just refine that core and just be like, how can I do this thing as often as possible? You know,
Mhm.
I did it with Dromai, just like cutting all the blues and all the big, wild, swingy dragons. Like all the Dromai players hated me because I refused to play. I didn't play Tomotai. I didn't play
Yep.
Dominia. I didn't play any of the big dragons. I took the whole thing, cut all the blues, and I was just like, I just want to play the efficient core of what makes Dromai strong. I did it
Makes
with
sense.
Dash.io. I made the Dash.io players all mad because I, pre Armory deck was very vocal that I thought uh, the Toma Fiendal and like the max velocity packages or the max speed packages were just like too unnecessary. I just wanted to make a deck like my Dash.io deck was just 4 Zen boom grenades all the way down. That
Yep.
was the whole deck. I didn't want to try and set up these 50 damage turns. I was just like, I'm going to throw 3 4s at you. You can't block them. And then I'm going to put a boom grenade on it. And then eventually that kills you.
Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
and so I kind of took the same philosophy with Vynnset. I was like, okay, yeah, Vynnset is capable of these like wild triple rune gate 50 damage super turns. And like, that's fun. And like, there are matchups where that kind of thing is important. Like we'll probably get into it. Like there are certain matchups where I, even in my build, set up to do those things.
Mhm.
But in the majority of the games, I'm like, what is it that makes Vynnset strong? The thing that makes Vynnset strong is sending a 1-card 10 to be able to just put a card in banish, have 3 rune chance, and just send 10 damage.
Yeah.
Like that alone will win 80% of your games. If you just block 9 and send 10, you will win most of your games. You
Yeah.
don't need this extra layer of trying to like set up these big wide things. You're just like you're introducing more inconsistency into the deck. You're introducing more ways that your deck can fail. Um, like I saw most of the Vynnset decks prior to mine were running like 25, 26, 27 rune gate cards, like under half the deck.
Yeah.
And you run those numbers through like a hypergeometric calculator. You run those numbers through like some advanced math, and it turns out that like 10% of your hands don't have a rune gate card. And if you've played any amount of Vynnset, drawing a hand with no rune gate card
Yeah.
is probably death.
Yeah. You lose that
Um,
turn, right? Pretty much.
yeah. And like especially in those builds too, because they were filling their deck with like all these like mauve skies and all these other like these 2 blocks that don't really do anything if you don't have an attack.
Yep.
Um
And a
so like
blue
they were
and another
yeah,
attack, right? You know?
yeah.
Like,
So I kind of just wanted to just take the deck and boil it down. Like the list that I ran in Portland, I was on 32 rune gate cards in the main deck, or 32 cards from banish.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so like I was like I never like my miss chance I think was like 3%. I was just
Literally
like I
Rhinar numbers. Crazy, right? Like
yeah.
that's how many 6s you need to function. Like it's
Mhm.
just like you're saying the same thing, like consistency, right? Cut out all the crap. Make all of these random cards, get rid of them, make your deck consistent, add in enough cards. Like 30 is the magic number in my perspective of like necessity, right? If you need one every turn, 30 minimum.
30 is like the bare 30 is the bare minimum.
Literal bottom, and then 40 is like close, is like good,
yeah. 40 would be like every turn I want like 2 of these. Absolutely. Like, and
really smart.
And I think that was just really what I wanted to do with the deck. I just wanted to just trim down the fat, make it consistent, do the thing every turn. And the deck performed. I think the deck did exceptionally well. Like I said, we had 3 of us. I finished 34th. I know another Vynnset on a similar build finished 32nd. And then we had another one in top 16, all of us on kind of similar mindsets. Like the 3 of us, like Friday, all were playing in like the armories and the side events on the Friday. And then like we all like had a powwow huddle where we all just like comparing notes and chatting. Like, okay, let's make these decks as efficient as possible. And I think it showed. And I think anyone who is not prepared for Vynnset is in for Rune Awakening. I think Vynnset is a very real hero now, and she's very spooky, and you need to have a plan for her.
And she's pretty good into Enigma, who seems to be like a big boogeyman, right? Like, the
Vynnset Enigma is a weird one, actually.
Really?
You would think the Vynnset Enigma matchup is better. I still think it's a decent matchup, but I think it's a very skill testing matchup. So with Vynnset, you're always a little bit susceptible to fatigue because you're just throwing the one big attack most turns.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you kind of have to shift your plan into the fatiguey decks, and Enigma's no exception. The one nice thing is you do get this little extra bonus where most decks into fatigue, if you take turns off to set up, then they have their like ways to punish you. Like you see that with like the Guardians with like the big spinal crushes and crippling crushes. And Enigma's typical way that she punishes setup turns is playing out a bunch of ward. So that's the one nice thing that's very fun with Vynnset is you can play about your ward and then you just don't care. You're just like, all right, cool. You can have you hit me for 3. All right, I guess.
And it's all gone. What do you think is Vynnset's weaknesses right now? Is it just fatigue?
I think so. I think fatigue is where she struggles the hardest. Although one of the things that I think I really like about Vynnset as a hero is Vynnset has so much agency in all of her matchups. There's a lot of decision points to make in that hero. I actually do think, like I posted on Blue Sky the other day that of all the heroes that I've ever played, I don't think I've ever had a hero that has really challenged me as much as Vynnset.
Interesting.
She's a hard hero to play. She's a much harder hero to play than I think most people realize. Particularly in these fatigue matchups where you have to be able to set up those big. This is what I talked about earlier, where most matchups you can just block 9, send 10, and then you'll win that game. The fatigue matchups are kind of the exception. You have to be able to go into these fatigue matchups and find those ways to be like, okay, I can't just send 10. 10 is not enough. I need to be able to send 20 or 30. And that's really where that core that like everyone else wants Vynnset to be, that like I'm gonna set up the triple rune gate giga turn. That's where that game plan really shines, and that's really where you want to be in that game plan. And so I don't even necessarily want to call those matchups bad. Those matchups are hard. Those are the matchups that like I say, you still kind of like, especially into Enigma more than any of the other fatigue matchups, you have kind of all the agency. Enigma's not going to do a whole lot. She's going to sit there. She's going to play a couple of attack actions. She's going to play some wards. She's going to kind of try to slowly grind you down, but like she doesn't have a whole lot of disruption. She doesn't have a whole lot of ways of actively like stopping the thing you want to do. So it's very much on you as the Vynnset player to be like, okay, here's the puzzle. These are the pieces in order, the way they come together. Find the way to win this game. I kind of laugh like we don't get these very often in Fab, but back in like Magic the Gathering, in like some of the old Magic magazines, they would always have these like puzzles where they would present you with a weird board state and be like, okay, find the way to find lethal on this board state. And I used to
Okay.
like love those. I loved like finding like the weird rules interactions, the weird like, okay, I can do this in response to this and to this and do this. And like if this all works out, then I can find lethal. Vynnset's fatigue matchup feels like that every time.
Oh, it's super
Uh,
fun.
it really is. Like I love it. It is one of the most challenging things I've ever done in Fab, but it is one of the most fun. I have
Yeah.
never had so many judge calls than playing Vynnset.
Really?
Just because
As a Prism
of
and a
these
Drill
weird,
My player? Wow.
yeah, as a prism, as a both prism and a draw my player. I literally, even in Portland, I had a judge call in Portland where I explained to my opponent what I was doing. My opponent said, that doesn't work. I called the judge. I explained it to the judge. And then the judge said, I'm sorry, I have to go ask the head judge because I don't know the answer to this. I have never before had a judge self-appeal on me.
What was it? What was the interaction?
It was an Eloquence double Funeral Moon line.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. No, do you know what I'm talking about?
You can play one as an. I know you can play one as an instant, and then it generates an action point. Then the second one, I'm not sure. What does the second one do? Does it generate two?
Here's how this works. You can start your turn. So you've not lost life, you've not paid life, you've not done anything.
Yes.
Crack Grimoire, or otherwise find any other way to make an Eloquence token.
Yep.
Like I run Grimoire, so I had that.
Makes sense.
Made Grimoire.
Yep.
I had 2 Funeral Moons.
Yep.
I can play the first Funeral Moon.
Yep.
Put the Eloquence trigger on the stack.
Yep.
So this is the thing that you may not know. Eloquence tokens, in addition to most other tokens in the game,
Goes for the whole
the way
stack.
they work. The way they read is when you do the thing that triggers them. So like for Eloquence, play a non-attack action.
Yep.
A trigger goes on the stack. That trigger says, give the target non-attack action go again and destroy the Eloquence token.
Yep.
But if that layer hasn't resolved yet, the token is still in play.
Yep.
So what you can do when this is you can say, I'm going to play a Funeral Moon without being at an instant. This is going to cost my action point. And put that trigger on the stack. Then you can put the Vynnset Hero Power trigger above it. Pay the life for the Vynnset Hero trigger. But then with the Eloquence trigger still in the stack, now I have lost life. So I can play a second Funeral Moon as an instant. And because we haven't sacrificed the Eloquence token still sees a non-attack action being played, triggers a second time, and then when you resolve the whole stack, the Eloquence token triggers, gives the second one go again, and then sacrifices itself. Yep. The first one resolves, gives you, your action point because it was played as an instant with go again. You get that second action point, but then that first Eloquence trigger still tries to resolve as much as it can. So it will still give that first Funeral Moon go again, but there's no token to sacrifice. So it just says, okay, did as much as I can, I'm resolved. And then it goes away. Then your first Funeral Moon resolves, gets go again, gives you your other action point back.
I actually did a YouTube video on that interaction, almost exactly that interaction, like the first week Vynnset was out. Because this is what I'm talking about. When I was going down on Vynnset, I was in this puzzle layer. I was like, I'm going to break the AP economy of this game. It's so crazy.
I think to play Vynnset at like the top level, you have to know all this stuff.
You have to break the game a little.
Yeah, because like I say, particularly in these fatigue matchups, it's going to be a lot of, okay, how do I find the lethal? Where can I scrape together the extra action points?
Yeah.
You got to know all these little tricks and all these like the other one that I love to do is like if you play an attack and then resolve that attack enough that you have turned on Spellbind Creepers.
Yep.
But like let's say that attack had go again. You can then play a second attack that you just like, let's say you just have the rune chance from, Malefics or Whale or whatever. You can play the second attack, put the rune chance for that on the stack, activate Spellbound Creepers, target one of the rune chants that's on the stack, or sacrifice one of the rune chants that's on the stack, make 3 new rune chants and gain an action point because you've played a go again at instant. But then that rune chant that you sacrifice, because it's already on the stack, it's exactly like the Eloquence token, where it will still resolve and try to do as much as it can. So it will still do the Point of Arcane and then still also give you the 3 new rune chants and the go again to get that like 3rd attack to go wide.
So interesting, huh? So yeah, she really likes to break the rules. She really does.
She really does, and it's so much fun. It's one of my favorite things about the hero.
When you were,
that you get to do these weird little puzzles.
Yeah, when you were going down the rabbit hole of Vynnset, were your testing partners like telling you no, or were they like or were you kind of crushing your testing group?
I think everyone's always pretty supportive. Generally, I think my team has just accepted the fact that like Mara's gonna do some weird shit, and then somehow it's just gonna work. Like I love my team. Shout out to Team Ascent. As well as some of my locals who test with me too. But I think generally I've got enough clout in crazy shit that most people just acknowledge that if Mara has a weird idea, we're just gonna see where this goes.
Just let it unfold, Yeah. So are you still on Vynnset after Portland, or do you think you're gonna put her to the side and focus on one of like the MST heroes or something?
No, I'm still very high on Vynnset. I think she's still incredibly good.
That's amazing.
I am splitting my time very slightly between Vynnset and Dash.io.
Okay.
Dash.io is the hero that I've been putting a lot of work into.
Yeah.
Although I will say, like, I think Dash.io is still like post High Octane Man. I think she's still a very, very powerful deck.
Yeah, I think so too.
But there are a lot of puzzles to solve with her right now. Like, there's a lot of questions on exactly how, specifically like her fatigue matchup is trying to kind of figure out, okay, how does she do the fatigue plan now? Like, what is her answer to fatigue? And we don't have a quite clear answer on that yet. She's got a lot of options and a lot of tools. So like, I feel very confident like there is an answer. There is a best fatigue plan. We just kind of had to figure out what that is. Which like that was kind of part of the reason I ended up on Vynnset for Portland to begin with. Was that I was kind of back and forth. Like I kind of thought I was going to be on Dash.io.
Okay.
And we were doing a bunch of testing, and I was like, I think the solution is still here. I just haven't found it yet, and I didn't feel comfortable enough, like taking Dash.io into Portland. But I'd been doing a lot of testing on Vynnset post Rosetta, and I was like, Dash.io is in still kind of a question marky place. I think she has answers, but they're not there yet. But man, these Vynnset games feel great.
I love it.
And so I ended up just taking Vynnset. Like it is kind of funny. Like say, like I had that conversation with my team where I'm just like, I think I'm taking Vynnset to this tournament. Can someone tell me that I'm crazy? And they're all like, nah, just do the thing. It's just working.
Do the thing.
Yeah. And
how do you feel? Yeah. How do you feel about the meta right now? Just like I feel like we've had a pretty one set dominance style thing for a minute now. I know that not all the puzzles are solved because you've kind of alluded to it. Like Dash.io is pretty good, right? Vynnset you think can make it.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the meta right now? Because there is a lot of complaints about MST. At this point in time.
I'll be honest. I actually think I feel very good about this meta. I keep seeing people talking about like the MST dominance, but then like, I look at these events and I'm like, yeah, okay, Enigma won this event, Zen won this event, but then like I look at these top 8s and like I don't necessarily know that that's entirely paying out. We are seeing Aurora do very well. We're seeing Viscerai do very well.
Yeah.
I think we have enough representation from other stuff that like yes, I think the MST heroes are all very powerful. I don't think that's a question.
Yeah.
Although even in that, I think like we see New is particularly powerful because New has a good matchup into the MST heroes. I don't think New is actually a particularly like broken hero. I think New is actually really interesting and really healthy, and a really just good all around hero.
Yeah, I don't mind. New is fine from a balance perspective. I think the only thing she brings is frustration to play against. She's not like
Sure.
I think each of the MST heroes brought in like a something negative. I mean, Zen first version of Zen was probably too strong, right?
Yeah.
And then all
Um,
illusionists, 50% of the population loves them, 50% of the population hates them. And then there's New, who's hard to play against. So I think that might be why it might be less that they're overpowered because I think Lexi was way more overpowered, in my
oh
opinion.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
I just think maybe the frustration is that they're just weird to play against. Maybe I don't know.
They do. I think all three of them do kind of approach the game from a unique angle. That is something
Yeah,
that we have not seen before.
yeah,
Yeah, I will say, like I say, I think New is we're seeing New dominance partially because of her place in that like triangle of MST3 heroes.
yeah,
Um, I think once we see some of that phase out, I think New might settle into a more balanced feeling place.
probably.
Um, but in even like Zen, I think Zen is a very good, very powerful hero. But like once we got rid of like the Bond stuff and like the Art of War stuff, um, Zen does not feel like a broken hero. He's very solid and he's very consistent. We talk
Yeah,
about like this thing that like when you're looking at these big long tournaments, consistency is super important. Zen is a very, very consistent hero. I don't think he's broken. I don't even honestly think Zen is particularly powerful.
hmm.
Um, like Zen's power turns, like his like now, like I say, once we've got rid of all of the like really big scary stuff, most of Zen's powerful turns are not that wild. Like
Yeah,
his like ceiling is like, yeah, he can do like 18 to 20 damage sometimes with like a really good like ancestral kind of turn, and like maybe occasionally can go a little higher than that, but like
yeah.
those are not like absurd numbers, and like his low turns are pretty low. Those hands where he just draws 4 blues and then he's just like, I guess I can transcend and go get like one decent attack and then like send like 10. He doesn't.
Yeah.
I think Zen is actually in just a very good position right now. Like I think he's just a good all around deck that isn't really doing anything particularly broken other than just like he's very consistent.
Just
His
consistent
ability to
above
search,
average.
yeah, he is just consistent above average, and like I don't think there's anything wrong with that existent.
Okay.
I think the only one to me that's kind of an outlier is Enigma.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and even like I don't like this is me as like coming from like I'm the illusionist player. I've played the villain for quite a while. um, Enigma, and maybe I'll make some people mad by saying this, but like Enigma is not a particularly engaging deck for either player.
That is
Um,
super true. It's
like
just value. There's nothing
yeah,
fun about it.
and like the problem is it's not even great value. Her actual like rate is not that good. Um, Enigma feels kind of like a problem for the same reason that like Count Your Blessings was a problem.
Yeah.
Um, she kind of plays the game on this axis that there's not a lot of meaningful ways to engage with.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple of heroes get access to some like damage can't be prevented kind of stuff, but for the most part, she's kind of playing on this axis of like, okay, I'm gonna give you a number, and you tell me if you can get over that number, and if you can't, you're going to lose the game.
Pretty
Um,
much.
I,
Yeah.
I, I always kind of compare, like, I don't know if you played a lot of like MMOs or like
Yeah.
did any of that kind of stuff, but Enigma, I always compare it as the DPS check hero of Fen.
It's kind of true.
Because
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Right.
like if you are a hero that can present numbers above what Enigma can defend, that matchup is going to feel very good for you. If you are not, that matchup is just going to be miserable, and there's not a lot you can do about it. Um,
Yeah.
like and even on the Enigma side of it, it's not particularly engaging most of the time. Enigma, like I'm not gonna say Enigma doesn't have a lot of decisions to make, but even on the Enigma side of it, if you're playing against a hero that can just present more damage than you can block, she's just not gonna do anything. Like we saw, like in the pre-nerf Zen meta, Enigma was just like almost non-existent. She was
Yeah.
around, people played her, but she just didn't exist in the meta in a reliable fashion because like she was just going to sit there and Zen's like, I'm just going to do the number. And there wasn't
Yeah.
a whole lot you could do. We didn't really see a real dominance of Enigma until after the book bannings, when they just kind of took the whole power level from everything and just brought it down like a notch.
Yeah.
And I think once you do that, now we have a DPS check hero, and everybody's DPS just went down by like 10%.
Yeah, it's kind of. She also shuts down half of the players in the game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I really truly don't know how. I don't really like that can exist. But like right now, there's no such thing as like a warrior player. You know, they're all gone. All the brute are. You know, we did see like Kale on Bravo, I guess, but like. Enigma also is just
like I said, like warrior brute, like
warrior brute guardian.
These are the same thing. These are these classes that historically are very good at turn to turn value and are not so good at just going really really big.
Yeah, they don't have the number. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's exactly it. And Enigma says, "Do you have the number?" And they say no, and then that's the game.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's kind of boring.
There's not a whole lot of like a really engaging decision for either player there. And Enigma's going to play her wards, and they're going to play some damage, and she's going to block, and then the wards are not going to die, and then she's going to kill you.
Yep.
Like I don't fundamentally hate Enigma existing, but I do kind of feel like Enigma was like I think Enigma was an overcorrection from Dromai. I think is what happened. I think when Dromai was really big, we saw a lot of people complaining about Dromai because it feels bad to kill dragons. It feels bad to say like I have this gameplay that I want to do and I want to go at you, but like I have to stop what I'm doing to go deal with your board.
Yeah.
And I kind of get the feeling that LSS took that a little too personally and said, okay, people don't enjoy having to stop their game plan to deal with a board. So let's take that agency out. Let's just say, okay, you don't have to stop what you're doing to deal with the board, but now you don't have any agency on whether or not you want to deal with the board. That agency is now on the
Enigma. Right. The fact you can't target Mirror Guy is a problem, right? Like the fact you can't target it, you know? Yeah, really interesting point. You're right. Like I think that is probably what went through their heads, right? Like, let's just make it you attack her and her stuff dies. But the problem is right now is like she puts too much stuff down. You know? Yeah. She doesn't let you attack her stuff, you know?
Yeah, I think Prism, like if they wanted to do that kind of angle, I think Prism really hit that balance just right. Where
New
you have
one
the
or
allies
old?
that like New Prism.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Where like she has the allies, and those allies have ward, and she can use those allies to protect herself. But if an ally is like a real problem, if you're like, man, that's a Herald of, or that's a an erudition on the board, that's a Soraya. I cannot let her go to her turn and keep that. I'm gonna invest extra resources and make sure that thing gets off the board right now and dies.
Yeah, actually, yeah, really well put. I actually agree with that. The new Prism isn't an abomination because like there's agency still, right? Like I mean, Prism can still do some ALS loop, of course. She can do some crazy Prism things with drawing and Shariah and all that. You know, she can do illusionist stuff, but like it doesn't. As long as you're not ALS looped, you feel like you have the power to make the board change. All right, and I think that's super important. You know.
Yeah. I do have my own complaints about like ALS loop and things like that, but that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole different. Yeah, we can do a whole illusionist special. I'd be down to talk about it. So okay, going back, we went on a little bit of a tangent with MST going down. You picked Vynnset. Should we dive into the list and get into a little bit of the details now?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm really excited because I love when somebody takes like an off meta hero to in a tournament. It's even more fun when it's somebody as big as you know what I mean? So let's go in there. Okay, we have her list right in front of us now. And I'm really excited to talk about this. But let's start off with this beautiful name. Rosetta Vendetta. Genius.
Yeah, stole it from one of my locals.
So good.
Shamelessly.
Rosetta Vendetta. That's so good. Wow. Tell your local they did great. Where do you want to start? You want to start with like equipment? Probably.
Sure.
I think this is probably self-explanatory. Although I think this is an interesting choice. But yeah, you want to get into
it? Yeah. So something that you'll kind of notice really quickly. Again, when we just talk about just purging everything down to the core and just like what is the most consistent choices.
Yeah.
I play Face Purgatory in every matchup.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do anything weird. Like I've seen people try to run like Ebb and Fold with some matchups.
Okay.
I've seen oh, that's not true. I do like I'll run Ebb and Fold for like Spell Void.
Sure.
I think it got cut entirely from this list because Kano's not real and can't hurt me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kano's not real, can't hurt me. Yeah, it's cut.
but I have seen people try to like run it to like set up the big turns. Face Purgatory, just an excellent card, does all the things we wanted to do. We play plenty of non-attacks. We play plenty of 3-block non-attacks, which makes this card just wonderful. Not a lot to really say about that. Flail of Agony, pretty standard.
Yeah.
I do switch between Fandal Spring Tunic and Dyadic Carapace.
Yes. Yes.
This is mostly pretty straightforward. If I'm doing a lot of blocking, I want Carapace. If I'm trying to set up my big like 3-wide turns, I want that Tunic. Mostly only for creepers. You'll notice that this deck does not like pitching a whole lot.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
In this entire 80-card deck, there is one card that costs exactly 1 resource, and that is 1 copy of Runeblood Incantation.
Oh my goodness.
Even that is only there because I have 2 Sonata Galaxias and I wanted a 4th Malefic.
Oh my gosh.
I want a 4th Red Malefic.
You really, really, truly love not paying for cards.
I don't like paying for cards. Paying for cards is how you introduce inconsistency in a deck. If you can make a deck that never has to pitch, you never have to worry about not drawing enough blues in a deck.
That's so funny.
Okay. So Carapace Tunic, fairly straightforward.
Yep.
Tunic is almost universally used for Spellbound Creepers. It's just really good to like set up those big turns, and that's I just need that 1 resource on the big turn. Creepers is there, and Tunic is awesome for that. Yeah. Creepers is in every matchup. Creepers is unbelievably powerful. It is probably one of the best leg pieces I think they've ever printed.
Yeah.
It causes more rules issues than any leg priest that's ever been printed.
That's true.
Man, it does so much work.
What's your favorite line with creepers?
My favorite creepers line, I think, is probably actually the one that I talked about before, where you respond to a rune chant on the stack with a dirge, and then be able to like sacrifice the rune chant, get the dirge, and then still get the 3 rune chants following it, and the go again to go like it's one of the best ways to like just get that 1 extra chain link on a big turn.
That's gross.
I love it. I just love it so much. I do play Grimoire in every matchup. I've seen some people play
the shield or whatever,
the Bloody Noble.
Yeah.
I played Bloody Noble for a little while, and first of all, I just kind of found that like I just never really needed it. I had so many games that I would just stay ahead for the majority of the game, because like especially like when you're playing the aggro matchups, you're just going like block 10, send 10, block 10, send 10, and the aggro decks are trying to push through you, so they're often not blocking a whole lot. They're not playing defensively. They're just trying to set up those big turns to where they can push 20, 25 damage to just go over your blocks. So I found more often than not I was ahead the majority of the game, and it wasn't until like the very last couple of turns where they would even like make any effort to really catch up. And so like I ended so many games, so I just was not using it. But the other thing that I found in a lot of my testing is, I say in most of these aggro matchups, I want to just do that like block 9, send 10.
Yeah.
But you do tend to reach a point in a lot of the aggro games where your opponent's at 5 and you go, here's 10. And they're not going to go, oh, I'm going to hold some cards back so I can send damage this turn. They're going to go, oh, God, I'm going to die. I have to block. And if you don't have a plan, they can fatigue you. Like if you're just going, I'm just going to send 10 every turn. If they just go block, block, prevent AB, you can run out of threats. You can eventually run out of ways to generate rune chants, and then you just can die.
Yeah, and blood, that's real, right?
Yeah, so like even in the aggro matchups, you have to have a way to just like, usually all you need to do is go like 2 wide. Have like 1 turn where you can just send 2 rune gate cards back to back, and that usually kills people because they're at like 5. And Grimoire is a really good way to do that. Grimoire not quite as flexible as Spellbound Creepers, but like we talked about with like the double Funeral Moon lines, we do have even just like having a Funeral Moon, like getting access to Grimoire plus Funeral Moon to get that go again, to get that extra action point and that extra rune chant is just another way to always have access to a way to go too wide to close out a game. And so the more I played the aggro matchups and the more I found this Bloodied Oval sitting here useless and me not being able to close the game, I finally was like, you know what? I already had the Grimoire. The Grimoire was in for the grindier matchups anyway. I'm like, I'm just gonna save myself a sideboard slot, run this in everything. It is also really fun because you get to joke with all the Zen players. I told one of my Zen opponents in Portland, I was like, I think it's correct for me to present AB4 into you. And he was like, yeah, present AB4, do it. You won't. And I was like, okay. So then I presented AB4 into Zen.
That's wait, where does it? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. I was looking for the other one. Okay, I forgot this is an AB1 too.
Yeah,
that's so funny.
Grimoire has one, and then Carapace has two.
Wow, you have so much natural AB actually.
Oh yeah, I just have AB4 into everybody.
Well, why do you need Ebonfold? Who? Oh, you have no blues. Okay.
Yeah, no, you still need them. We have no blues.
Okay. Got it.
Spellwood's still relevant.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a couple of blues, but not a lot.
Yeah, and then vexing is just I bricked a little. I can fix this, or is this like wombo turn?
So it's not even like I bricked a little. Let me fix this. It is just. I mean, like I guess sort of it is, but it's just we talk about that consistency.
Yeah.
You're gonna have one turn in a game where you're just like, man, if I had just a couple more rune chants, I could do a cool thing. And sometimes it's for a wombo turn. Sometimes it's just, man, I just didn't draw the things in the right order, and this turn's a little awkward.
Yeah.
Particularly like in some games where like if you go second, you don't really have that setup first turn, and you don't have that little bit of cushion. Like sometimes it's fine just going second, just to crack it on that first turn and just be like, all right, I'm gonna just open the game strong. And sometimes you can save it and you wait for, like I say, when you're like your opponent's at 5 and they're just scraping to try and survive, and you're like, all right, here's that like last little push where I'm gonna have my one rune gate card, and then I'm gonna crack vexing, and I'm gonna get a go again, and then just send that second rune gate to close the game.
Yeah, just power. And you have really good equipment, man. Like, look at this stuff. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Runeblade's got it good.
Really does.
Really got it good. Wow.
Also, something else that like is probably worth mentioning. I know a lot of people really like Grasp, and
I was gonna ask about that. Sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't run Grasp, but I run Vexing in every matchup. And it kind of comes down to like the block theory in Grasp is really nice. If I'm just trying to block, having that extra block is really useful. But the idea of like, oh well, you can pitch to make a rune chant feels so bad.
True.
Like I feel like, first of all, like I don't ever want to be in a position where I need to do that. I want to just build my deck in a way that just feels more consistent, to where I'm not one rune chant short that often. Second, because we're so light on blues, and because Vynnset starts with at least one rune chant, you're talking about pitching an entire blue to make that one rune chant.
True. I forgot about the rune chant generation piece for a second. Okay.
Yeah. So like you're often very much like, you just often like, even in the times where you need that rune chant generation, you probably don't have the blue to support it. And then again, that is also only assuming you're making your second rune chant, not even like a third, and a lot of our rune gates are 3. So like,
and flail's not that fun. Even if you didn't make the rune chant, like spending a blue, you don't even get to use your weapon. Like you're not making a 4 with a blue, right? You're making a 2.
No.
Yeah. Okay. A 2 minus 1 health.
Yeah. And then at that point, we've taken our deck from like, okay, we're trying to do these like 1-card 10s to, okay, now we spent 2 cards, and now we're spending like a 2-card 7. And you're like, yeah, that's kind of okay. It's not awful, but it's just not where we want to be.
Who wants to send brute numbers these days? Gross.
And like I say, like we're trying to build our deck where like that situation doesn't come up very often.
Yeah.
So like if that situation comes up once per game, then like we have
Yeah.
Quill Hand. Quill Hand just does that thing and gets us out of that situation, but also offers a lot more. Like the
Yeah.
difference in 1 rune chant for 3 resources and 2 rune chants for 0 resources are night and day.
I totally agree, especially with the direction that you've taken this list, right? Like it makes a lot of sense, you know. And as you explained so beautifully, right? Consistency. Just constantly doing the right thing at the right time, you know.
I often compare Quill Hand in this deck to, if anyone ever did play like my old Dromai list, to Snapdragon Scalers in Dromai. Where just like statistics say once per game, you're going to have that one hand where you're just like, man, if I just had one source of Go Again to turn on all my dragons, this hand would be insane. And without it, this hand does nothing. And Vynnset kind of feels the same. Once per game, you're just going to have that one spot where you're like, man, if I just had 2 more rune chants right now, I can do a wild thing. I can upgrade this Deathly Delight to a widespread annihilation, or I can go 2 wide, or I can just, my opponent's at 3 and I'm out of gas, but I have that one last, like, I can send this one big 10 and just retake all my tempo. There's just like always that one spot per game where Grasp just doesn't do what we want to do, but Quill Hand just really comes through.
Makes sense. All right, and then you have a lot of reds. So so many reds. So I think we can actually just go through this list in any way that you think makes sense, because normally I'd go like reds, yellows, blues, but to be very honest, it's mostly reds. So how do you want to approach it?
So I tend to break the list down into 3.5 parts.
Okay.
Rune chant attacks, rune chant generators, defensive tools, and then our go agains.
Beautiful.
So first right off the bat, you will notice that there are very, very few go agains in the main deck. And that mostly comes down to what we were talking about, where like we're not trying to be cute. We're not trying to really set up these big wide turns. Like you can look down the sideboard. Most of those go agains that everyone else is playing in their main decks are all on my sideboard. The shadow puppetries are not in the main deck. I have shadow puppetry. I have tear through the portal, and those are like my really big ones. Those ones that I like, and they're just there. Like tear through the portal it's not a good card. But it does the thing we need it to do. It is a shadow card. It has go again. It gives us an action point. It gives us that ability to go wide on those combo turns.
What makes tear through the portal better than like Mauve Skies? Shadow?
It's that word down at the bottom. It says shadow. That's literally the only thing.
That's really it? That makes it good enough?
Yep. Because when we're trying to set up these like big turns, one of the key pieces to those big turns is Deathly Wail. Being able to set one Malefic, play a Shadow, play a Deathly Wail, come back with 3, getting the 2 off the Deathly Wail and the 1 off the Malefic, getting 3 on the back end, sending a second Deathly Wail, and then that one giving us 2, which then can play our 3rd Rune Gate, is just the best way to go 3 wide consistently is just to make sure we have that double Rune Gate off of Deathly Wail.
So you're really putting that value on the fact that you can trigger Vynnset off the shadow card, right?
Yeah. And really just specifically for Deathly Wail.
Makes sense.
The other ones you can do there's some cute tricks you can do with the widespreads and set up some things. But generally when I'm looking to do those 3 and 4 wide turns, they are very often on the back of Deathly Wail.
Okay.
That's actually one of the reasons you see I'm on the full 9 copies of Deathly Wail.
Yeah.
It's when we really want to set up those big turns, Deathly Wail is just the best way to do those. And so Tear Through the Portal is just kind of the next best thing next to Shadow Puppetry. I had red Mob Skies in for a while, and they just weren't consistent enough. When you're trying to push through those fatigue decks, they're very happy to block out a Mob Skies.
Yeah, it's true. Just give you 2 cards. Who cares? Yeah.
So I was just not finding the consistency that I needed in Mob Skies, and so I ended up switching the mobs to Tear Through the Portals just because I don't care about them blocking with Tear. I'm going to get my 2 rune chance off of this Deathly Wail.
Wow. Okay. That's really clever. Okay. You've put a lot of thought into this. I really love it. That's good. That's good. That makes sense because in every other scenario minus fatigue, you'd assume Mob is better, right? But truly your weakness, as you kind of described earlier in the video, is like it is fatigue, right? So you have to be
Yeah,
prepared
and
for
they say
them.
none of these are even in the main deck against the aggro decks. Like I only want it for fatigue, and if I only want it for fatigue, this is the role that I want it to do.
Totally makes sense. Okay.
Also, just talking about, we'll take like a very, very brief aside for weird rules interactions that I think a lot of people miss that Tear does also do. Tear does not say choose a red attack action card. It says choose a red action card.
Huh.
You can tear Funeral Moon for an extra action point.
You know what? You know what here? Well, interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
That one's gotten me through a lot. And that's one of the reasons where, like, you know, with Tear, where we're like, we really want it on these Deathly Whales, but like I don't always have 3 red Deathly Whales that I can target with Tear. Sometimes you can just like funny. You can send a yellow. So you can go like play the Tear, target Funeral Moon, pay the life, then send your yellow Deathly Whale, then after that Deathly Whale resolves, then you can play the Funeral Moon because it keeps that go again. You don't have to play it right away. So then after the Deathly Whale, you can play that Funeral Moon with go again, get the action point, get the 3rd rune chant, and then send your next attack.
That's something else that goodness. Yeah, you're the puzzle pieces are puzzling right now.
I told you this is why I love this deck.
All right, I'm going in the kitchen. I'm gonna start cooking with you. This is sick. I haven't gotten excited about our deck in a while, which is really sad for me. You know, I'm a 1 hero person. Rhinar was that one hero. Not good right now. Hasn't been good.
I will say,
I'm a Vynnset main.
We may not be a brute, but Vynnset's kind of a brute at heart.
You know, I actually have a part in my Discord, the Ape Discord, called, you know, like brute friends, and Vynnset was the first hero I put in there.
Yeah. Vynnset's got a little bit of brute in her.
She throws big numbers, you know, like yeah, I love it. Blocks and throws big.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. Especially if you're on like the Rhinar side of brute, like Vynnset, my particular Vynnset flavor, like I think you'll feel right at home in this deck.
Yeah, I'm seeing my favorite things: big numbers, you know, big numbers, defense reactions, and fun interactions. You know what I mean? Yeah. Those are my favorite things. So, and you're telling me you can do 20 damage every once in a while? I'm in. You know? Yeah. I'm in. Okay, so you've got so we went on a bit of a tangent. So you've got your go again and your sideboard, right? We got and then really cool interaction with Terra Limb. You know, like Terra through the portal. I truly read it and was like, why would I play that above mob skies? Threw it in the trash. I never even realized it just says action card. That's so funny.
Yep.
Okay, so you got your go again package here.
Yeah, and then you said we do have a couple of go agains in the main that I will just like very briefly because they're not super important, but they are very specifically chosen. So the go agains that we have in the main are, we have Succumb to Temptation, which Succumb to Temptation is just a wild card on its own. The fact that they printed that card is unreal.
Oh yeah.
It is an excellent source to go again when we want to set up our go wide, but also is just a very good disruptive tool in the mid game when we're just trying to just do that block and send. And it's a 3 block. Like
that's kind of nuts.
Card just does everything we want it to do. I am so in love with this card.
Yeah, it's good.
And then the other big one is Machinations. And Machinations is another one where like we're not really looking to play these go wides very often in the aggro matchups, but you want to have one. So like having Machinations, it's a blue for the couple of times when we do need to pitch, and again, it's just another 3 block.
Yeah.
So like it was just it's like the floor in this card is just, this is a blue 3 block. It's probably a 3 block. But then like when you get into that end game scenario and you really need to have access to a go wide, it's there and doesn't really hamper our primary strategy. So it's excellent for that.
Okay.
I love it. I love Machinations. Machinations is just such a good little glue piece to just, you know, early game, it's just going to be a block. Sometimes mid game, it can be a pitch. And then when you get to the late game, it's that like last little piece we need to make sure we can go 2 wide and close the game.
And this is like an overpower, right? You're playing this instant speed. You're playing this. Do you ever use the overpower?
Uh, Overpower in this is one of those things that I am never considering it, but sometimes it wins a game.
Yeah, because I mean, like,
I am
yeah,
like I'm never mathing out like, okay, I'm gonna have overpower, so it'll be hard for them to block, so then I can close out a game that way. I'm very rarely, if ever, really banking on that because overpower is so unreliable.
yeah, true,
Overpower sometimes they just had the reaction and they can block it and it's fine.
yeah,
But sometimes you're just like, I'm just gonna send this with overpower, and then they go, well, can't block this. I guess I die.
yeah, true. Sometimes,
And then yeah, so it's just like Machination is just a great card. It just does the thing. It's also really good for turning on Face Purgatory because it is a 3-block non-attack action.
yep,
So
yep.
it's just really excellent to just like make sure that like we can cover like a big number with Face Purgatory and make sure we turn it on because we do want to keep some number of those blockable non-attack actions, and it's great for that.
Makes
And then
sense.
the last main deck go again that I'll mention is the one of Rattlebones.
Oh yeah, I was
Um,
gonna. Yeah, that's just floating off over here by itself. What's going on?
yeah, very akin to the Machinations, to where like the majority of the game, this is going to be a 3-block non-attack action. It's going to turn on our Face Purgatory. It's just going to block for 3. But when you get into those end game states where you just have to be able to close, having that one extra, like the nice thing with Rattlebones is Rattlebones can set up a 2-wide Runegate turn without needing to take a turn off for that second banish.
Oh,
Because that's always the danger when you're trying to get that 2-wide is like you're going to have to take a turn where you're just putting something in blood debt and either sending something from hand or just not attacking on a turn. And that can be a little spooky sometimes. Sometimes, when you've got all the tempo, it's hard to say like, okay, I'm just going to give up all the tempo so that I can try to close the game.
hmm.
And Rattlebones is really good. And it's like perfect as a one of like, I can maybe consider going to 2, but I think I've just been ecstatic having just one copy of this in my deck somewhere that I just know I'm like, okay, we're going to get to this end game and I'm just going to find this. And then you're going to take 1 point of arcane from something, either just like, I'm going to just send a little bit of arcane that you can't quite cover, and then just like turn on the Rattlebones, or even just like pitch a blue Creeper's Rattlebones.
Yeah, why not?
You don't even need that arcane. If they're trying to like frantically block to survive, you can just very cleanly pitch one of the couple of blues in our deck and then just Creepers, Rattlebones, go get the thing we need to get, and then just end the game.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just,
And on the back of like some of those clever things you've been saying, like it's just banishing a card you're gonna play for free. Why not?
yeah, yeah.
Basically paying 2 for a Deathly Whale, kind of. Yeah.
And that's like very fine when you're trying
Yeah.
to just like set up. It gives us that action point and it gives us that last little attack to push through the game.
Yeah.
It's excellent. I was so happy with having just one copy in the deck.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Uh,
Okay, so we hit the go
so
agains.
yeah.
And then, I mean,
So
I think the
pretty
defense
straightforward.
package is pretty self-explanatory. Reduce the Rune Chance, one of the best cards ever made, in my opinion. This card's nuts.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, Register Enchant is absolutely excellent. No one's gonna argue with Sink Below.
yeah.
Haunting Rendition, beautiful card. Haunting Rendition, like again, we just talked about that consistency. Haunting Rendition, if I can look at my board and be like, well, I have enough rune chance to play to play my my rune, whatever rune gate card I'm planning to play for my turn, then like this is a 4-block. It's just an excellent above rate, covers something really nicely, does all the things, and then sometimes you draw it and you're just like, man, I need one more rune chant. Well, it's there for that too.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's really good.
Also, a thing that I think not everybody quite realizes on Haunting Rendition too is Haunting Rendition doesn't say prevent 2 of the next source. It just says prevent the next 2 damage, meaning you can split Haunting Rendition.
Yeah, across like Rune Chance or...
Yeah, across rune chance, across just attack breakpoints.
Yeah.
Something that I love playing against like Aurora, where they'll send a 4 and you go, I'll block 3. I don't need to overblock this. And then they go respond with Channel Lightning Valley. Then you can go, all right, I'm going to discard my Haunting Rendition, prevent the 1 so you don't get your card draw. And then now I still have an extra 1 floating because you're going to send another 4 after this because that's what Aurora likes to do, send those 4s. And now I have another prevention floating so that I can give you 1 more 3-block and cover 2 attacks to prevent a CLV draw. And it's so good for that.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I still get that extra rune chain value out of it on the back end.
Hey, and now you
Yeah,
can tutor another card for free. You know. You
yeah,
have a
on
lot
again.
of 4 blocks though. That's I actually don't know if I noticed that the first time I passed through your list. So you've got 4 here,
10 4 blocks.
3, 6, 9, 10. That is a lot. And you that is a lot. That is way more than I expected.
It's like I said, we want that consistent plan. All we're really looking to do in most of these aggro matchups is we just want to block really efficiently, block really well, and then just send one big dumb attack. I'm not really looking to do the crazy cute things. I just want to block really, really well and then send one really big attack.
Wow.
And if I'm going to be blocking really well, then it makes sense to play the best, really good blocking cards in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I really like defensive lists, and I didn't realize how defensive this one was.
I should actually asterisk. So I said we have 10 4 blocks. We technically have 12 because you'll notice there's a pair of arcane polarities.
Yeah, I did see those. Yeah.
These are my asterisk 4 blocks, specifically against Viscerai. Because one of the problems that we ran into with Viscerai is you can have a whole bunch of 4 blocks, but when Viscerai just goes, here's 3 and 12 arcane, then you're just staring at this handful of 4 blocks feeling real silly.
Yeah, that's true.
So the arcane polarities get to come in against Viscerai, and they get to just continue to play that 4 block value game even into their arcane. Or we can just go, that's a lot of arcane, cute, I don't care. Here's just I'm gonna gain 8 life.
It's pretty good. I love it. So yeah, very defensive deck. Very defensive.
Very, very defensive deck.
Wow.
And I think it's one of the reasons the deck does particularly well in this metagame is most of these decks have to be so aggressive to try to get over Enigma. And we just eat most of the aggressive decks alive. Like I think over the course of the weekend, I played like 7 or 8 Auroras, and I think I beat all but 1.
Wow.
And even that one, I hit a little bit of a rough patch on. But yeah, like it just very consistent into most of these aggressive decks. We're just very, very good at efficiently blocking and sending the big number that they just can't deal with. Like we just can grind them out very cleanly.
That's really, really exciting. Okay, I love it. Okay, so we got go agains, defense, and now we're probably talking about your either your non-attack actions or your
we can talk about the attacks real quick because most of the attacks are pretty interchangeable.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna be real. I don't care about 90% of the attacks in this deck. They say blood debt, they say rune gate. We're balling. We kind of went over Deathly Whale. Deathly Whale is probably the only one that like is very important. And even then only in the like fatigue matchups where we're looking to really go wide.
Okay.
You'll notice something that's also interesting. We talked about all the shadow non-attacks in the fatigue plan. There are, aside from Funeral Moon, no shadow non-attacks in the main deck when we're playing in our aggro matchups. None of them come in. Because we just don't care. We don't need to worry about it. When we don't need to worry about setting up these big turns, it's not nearly as important.
Yeah.
We have a very consistent base of rune chant generators. So like the only one that we're really trying to turn on is Deathly Whale. And in that matchup, we don't usually need 2 rune chants. We just want to have like the ability to make 1. Because like if we have 1 Malefic in play, and then send a Deathly Whale that makes 1 rune chant instead of 2, and then we get our 3rd one on Vynnset. Well, that's basically every card in the deck that we can guarantee we can cast for like very minimal investment.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's really funny. I actually think I won several games this weekend because people are accustomed to this old style of Vynnset that was very, very reliant on Deathly Whale. Like that was just how they generated the majority of their rune chants.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so it was very like common knowledge of the way you beat Vynnset is you just block out the Deathly Whale.
Yeah, that's what I did on Rhino, right? Like, I just was like, okay, you know.
Yeah, you wait for the Deathly Whale, you block out the Deathly Whale, and then their deck turns off. I had so many aggro decks that they're like, oh, that's the Deathly Whale. I'm gonna block it all out, and I'm like, all right, I don't care. So many alternate ways to make the rune chants, I just gain. I'm just like happy to take this extra value.
Yeah.
Um,
So you're saying most of the I kind of get it though. Yeah, most of these attacks are just they're just vanilla
they're
rune.
just they're
Yeah.
above rate. When you replace that number in the top right hand corner with a 0, like these hand attacks are all just like great.
Yeah. Your special ones
like,
are like destruction,
like obviously like
ruin.
widespread destruction, widespread annihilation are like always nice to have. I'm never sad about those.
Yeah.
Although even then you'll notice there's only 2 widespread annihilations because 4 is just a little less consistent.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's just a little bit harder to cast that one, and I don't want to put myself in positions where I can't cast my rune gate cards.
Makes sense. Consistency.
But like, yeah, that's all we want. We just want to be consistent. We want to block and we want to send a big number, and I want to do that every turn. And the majority of these attacks are just here to do that.
Yeah.
I
really love her art though. Her art and her cards are so cool.
Oh yeah, as long as you like the color purple.
Yeah, very true. If you don't like purple, get lost. Okay, and then you have your non-attack actions now, which are probably where the juice comes from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And this is the other thing that I think, honestly, like that I think I do slightly differently than most other Vynsets, which I think surprises me a little. I play so many more rune chant generators than most decks. I've seen most of them on like 3 red malefics, maybe 2 yellow malefics, and then like the like reduces and the funeral moons and the haunting renditions. But like particularly on valuing the aura rune chant generators, malefic and runeblood incantation, I value these cards so obscenely highly. Like I run in my list in Portland, I had 3 red malefics, 2 yellow malefics, a runeblood incantation, and 2 Sonata Galaxias just as extra redundant copies of them. I ran 8 copies of that rune chant generation effect. And I'll be honest, the first thing that I did coming home from Portland was add the 3rd yellow malefic. That is the only change that I have made from this list. I was just like, yeah, that was good. I want 9. I want 9 copies of this effect, because the difference in a Vynnset with a malefic incantation and a Vynnset without a malefic incantation feels like night and day. All I want to do is have a malefic every turn for the entirety of this game.
Makes sense.
Because the just volume of consistency, when I can say, I know I am guaranteed a bare minimum of 2 rune chants to start every single turn.
Yeah, that's crazy.
80% of my rune chant or of my rune gate cards cost 2, and the other 20% only cost 3, aside from the 2 copies of a single 4. Being able to start every turn with 2 is just so good for the consistency of the deck, and that's just all I ever want to do.
I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's such a good card. Such a good card.
And I think that's the most notable change on like the rune chant generators. I think most of the other ones are fairly standard at this point, like say Funeral Moon, Haunting Rendition, Reduced to Rune Chant. Pretty standard stuff. I think the only thing that really stands out for me is like, and that's basically where my changes went, is I cut most of the big go agains, put them on the sideboard, and replaced them with just more rune gate cards and more ways to generate rune chants.
And then your Sonata, are you typically what are you blocking out and fetching like a malefic, or are you typically going for like X's too?
It's very variable. Usually I can get to an X's too. Something that's worth noting that I think most of your viewers will know, but you might not. You don't have to have the full 4 rune chants to get an X's 2. You can, like, if I can get to 3 rune chants, which is very, like we talked about, like getting to 3 rune chants is pretty easy. You can get to 3 rune chants and either use a tunic counter to get to 4, or pitch 1 card and get to 4. Or occasionally you can just creepers it.
Yeah, true. Okay.
Like it is just another card that you can creepers if you need to in a pinch. So like you can kind of go either way. This is actually another one we talk about, the Vexing Quill hand. I have had games where I've won on Vexing Quill hand because I'm just like, man, I really need to cast this, this Sonata, and I can just crack that Vexing, get the Sonata, that takes me up to 4, play the Sonata, get a Malefic. Now I can play my attack now and then get an extra rune chant on the back off of that Malefic to set up those big turns.
It's pretty
Like,
good. Pretty
another
good.
little side use for
Man, this
that.
hero's got so many tricks. I love it.
I do too. Like I said, I think I have never played a hero that has really pushed me as much as
Yeah.
Vynnset's.
I'm really
Find
wanting to
all
go to
the
the drawing board now. I'm wanting to jump on. I'm gonna go build Vynnset after this call.
much fun.
Okay, so we got your rune chant generators. We got your blocking
Mhm,
cards. We got your thick rune gate cards. And
mhm.
now I think closing it out, you kind of have your cute cards, Beseech and
Uh,
Rune, and or did we miss something?
sure. Yeah, and that's mostly like there's a couple of these little side cards, not, but you will notice very few. Most everything in the deck kind of falls into those categories.
Yeah.
Um, and even like Revel and Runeblood is just another rune chant generator. It's
Yeah.
in the sideboard because Revel is only good if we're trying to set up these go wide turns.
And that's for
I don't
fatigue.
want it. Yeah, and it's only for
Hmm.
the fatigue. It is just another card that makes those big, wide, scary fatigue turns a little bit easier, where we can like send a Rude Gate, creepers the Revel, or just get a go again, get the Revel, guarantee we have the extra rune chance to follow it up, and then just like set up these really big, wide turns. And that's
Yeah.
all that's there. It is Revel and Runeblood is basically just extra copies of Deadwood Dirge that just happen to make slightly more rune chance.
Yeah.
Um,
It's true.
you know,
It's
it's
true.
really all it is. They are redundant copies of Deadwood Dirge that just do a slightly different thing.
Yeah,
Um,
it's such a good card.
Beseech is there really again just because we want to make sure we have enough shadow cards. We
Okay.
talked about the importance of the shadow cards,
Yeah.
particularly in the Enigma matchup, where we need
Mm.
to absolutely make sure that like we have access to that ability to just clear the board. Beseech is also a little bit good in Enigma specifically, where sometimes we're trying to set up our go wide, and the Enigma is just like, all right, well, I have a Mira guy. And you're just like, okay, well, I don't want to waste a shadow puppetry that I've had in Arsenal because I'm trying to set up that big turn, but I need to do something. I can't just like let you keep a Mira guy.
Yeah.
And Beseech is really good to just like have to just play it out, pay the life, send just one random attack. Here's 9 with 3 rune chance, and all of it's unpreventable. Just clear out your board. You kind of take some of that pressure off.
Mm.
And Beseech was great for that. I actually, for a little while, and I may still consider going back to this, but I think Beseech feels good. I was actually running Seeds of Agony for a little while in this slot.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, mostly because Seeds, you like the actual value on Seeds is pretty terrible. Like you're half the time not even triggering it because even
Yeah.
Red Seeds requires a 2 or less cost card. So like even your 3 costs, just don't trigger it.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
And
yeah.
but like I say, in that Enigma matchup, sometimes just having access to a shadow card on demand is just really good, and sometimes
Huh.
that's just all you need.
Yeah,
Um,
I was really
I kind of
valuing
like,
the shadow mechanic piece wrong, which makes a lot of
mhm.
sense now that you're kind of like really explaining it also simply, you know? Um,
Yeah, and like I say, I think I found that like with 3 tears, 3 shadow puppetries, and then the 2 beseeches, that like felt like a good number. And then we do also have the funeral moons if we really
yeah.
need them. They're a little trickier. We have to kind of do some gymnastics
You
to
gotta
make them work.
wiggle a little bit, you know?
But they're there if we need them. But yeah, so I think the Beseech probably stays in as that like last little. I need one more shadow card just to make sure we have it. But
Yeah.
there's a little bit of flex there.
Okay. It's
Um,
pretty good. And then you got
and then
Oblivion, which is also fatigue, I'm guessing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How often do you
And
play
kind
this
of do
card?
the same thing. A lot more than I expected.
Really?
um, so you wanna keep going down the rabbit hole of weird tricks that this deck can do. One of my favorite tricks to do is Oblivion with Malefic incantations. So let's say
Oh.
I have 4 rune chance, which isn't too terribly uncommon for the deck. Because that's you look at Oblivion and you're like 6 rune chance sounds like a lot,
Yeah.
and it is. This deck very rarely gets to 6 rune chance, but it does get to 4 rune chance and 2 Malefic incantations very consistently. That's just a very normal play pattern for this deck, particularly if you have 2 Malefic incantations.
Yeah.
Where like you probably got 2 Malefics and then to from your previous turn, the one to start your turn, and then one from just any random Funeral Moon or Reduce, getting to 4 rune chants with 2 Malefics is not hard. You can send an attack, stack the 4 rune chant triggers, stack the Malefics on top of the 4 rune chants, resolve the Malefics first, then the game sees you as briefly controlling 6 rune chants, and then you can slam that Oblivion.
Oof, so good.
Yeah, and it makes Oblivion much more reliable.
So beautiful.
Yeah. And sometimes these like fatigue decks actually have a really hard time dealing with Nazareth. She's excellent when we're trying to set up these big kill turns where like it's just an extra free chain link that we don't have to worry about setting up rune chants for.
Yeah, that's true.
So like it's very common for like a 3 or 4 wide chain to, you know, send a rune chant, do the Malefic stacking, play the Nazareth, creepers another go again to get an action point and a go again, send the next attack, and then with that extra action point, send Nazareth.
Yeah. And it's probably it's also decently hard for 6 is like not a trivial number for fatigue decks, you know? It's not a trivial number.
Particularly when you're sending it, you're sending like 30 damage on that turn and they're having to block a lot.
Yeah, they have to like choose between Nazareth or dying, you know? Yeah.
So you can put them in really bad positions where like it becomes very difficult for them to both survive the big turn and still deal with Nazareth.
Wow. I love this list. I love it. I'm in love.
Another small thing that's worth noting on Nazareth that's really relevant. Rune chants specify attack, action, or weapon. Because Nazareth is neither. She does not trigger your rune chants. So that's really relevant sometimes when you're trying to, when you send that big turn, a lot of times when you're going like 3 and 4 wide, you're going to end that turn with 0 rune chants because you just spent everything.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times if you're setting up Nazareth, you can end your turn with like, okay, I break the chain, I get that last Deathly Wail and make the 2 rune chants and then send Nazareth. And now you have that big turn, you have your Nazareth, but you still guarantee that you have those extra rune chants on the back so that your follow-up turn after that
keeps the train.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So it's just a nice extra little thing that's worth noting is that that because Nazareth doesn't trigger those rune chants, you can actually put yourself in a lot of better positions coming off of those big turns.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You know, like, I mean, back in my day, OTK Viscerai was around, right? Like, every once in a while, you'd really just want to, like, get something, you know, just send some final damage, but you're like, if I send this damage, my rune chants go away, so I can't do it, you know? Like, it just, you know, makes sense. I guess my final question is, this is the one attack that I think does really, truly stand out, because it is like, it's your lowest number on the list. So you value Eloquence tokens high enough to run the 1 for 4?
No, I really don't.
No? Is it just because this is the rune, this is the only rune gate card you have left?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh my god.
I feel bad because I really like Eulogy, and Eulogy is a really neat card, and like there are some really cool things you can do with the Eloquence tokens, but we have so many non-attacks with Go Again that most of the time the Eloquence token just does nothing.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. You kind of did use most of the Rune Gate cards in here, you know? So
yeah, I think literally the only other Rune Gate card that we have option to play without just going into like yellows is oh gosh, I'm gonna blank on the name of it. It's the Go Again 4.
Oh yeah, the
oh my gosh,
worst version of yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I can find it.
I'm like, oh, I feel terrible because I know this card. It's really bad though.
Yeah, it's just, let's look it up. Rift Skitter.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the only other options we have either Rift Skitter or there are some people that play Bounding Demigon. As the other one, it's just kind of a 0 for 4.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But considering that we always can kind of guarantee at least 1 rune chant, Eloquent Eulogy is kind of just better than Bounding Demigon.
Because there's a chance you can use the Eloquence token.
Yeah, and also the fact that like Bounding Demigon, you have to have played a non-attack, whereas Eulogy you can just always send.
True. Yep. Yeah, fair. It's been a while since I've seen a chain card, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the fact that eulogy does only cost one is relevant. Like there are times when you just like don't have the setup to do a bigger turn, and you just want to send a one cost rune gate, and like that's fine. You know,
Yeah.
it's not as flashy as some of the others, but again, we just talked about that consistency. Having access to just a card that I can have this in my hand and I can guarantee that there is no world where I don't have enough rune chance to send this card.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's enough. Having that plus like the occasional upside where the eloquence token gets to do some stuff, it's more than enough that it makes the cut.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So I guess, I mean, we've gone through pretty much all of the cards now. Do you have any like closing thoughts? Is there something Vynnset's missing? Is there like something that would magically make her the best? You know, like what are your closing thoughts on Vynnset?
So we've actually been speculating on this a lot because they kind of teased that Vynnset's getting a card in the new set.
Yeah, they did,
So
huh?
there's been a lot of speculation in Vynnset chat about like, okay, what are they going to give us? What do we really want? And I think I would like a shadow non-attack that
Mm?
puts a card in my banish.
Oh,
I don't know
interesting.
exactly how they want to make it happen. I just want a shadow non-attack, maybe like with Rune Gate would be really cool.
Ooh.
Because you know we kind of talked about where like I was literally talking about playing Seeds of Agony just because I was just like I
Yeah.
just want a shadow non-attack that I can put in my banish and play, and can have 0 text and I will still play that card. So like if they could give me a shadow non-attack that's even just like shadow non-attack, Rune Gate, go again, put a card from your graveyard into your banish zone. Like,
Something. Yeah.
mwah.
Beautiful.
Because like we want something. I want something that's like in that that same sort of slot that like Rattlebones fills, where
Mm.
like I can play it in the aggro matchups, and it just gives me a way to go too wide in an aggro matchup without having to take a turn off to set up a second Rune Gate, or something I can use in the fatigue matchups to help set up that like Giga Stack 4 wide turn.
Yeah.
I think that would be like my ideal, and I think that would go a long way to just like shoring up those last couple of pieces to just make the deck feel very, very consistent.
Wow. All right. And then, I mean, we've basically reached the end of the video, but let's do some plugs. You know, let's all go support Mara on all of her adventures. Where can we find you?
So I'm pretty active on Blue Sky. I'm just at Blackwing Studio on Blue Sky. I do still have a Twitter that I check every now and then, but everybody just moved to Blue Sky. It's just better.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah, just made the journey.
at Blackwing Studio on Twitter as well. I do also have I have a very active Patreon where I post guides to all of my heroes and all my decks. We don't have a big Vynnset guide yet, but I'm sure that's coming. I've got a 60-page Dash.io guide and a
Oh my
70-page Draw My guide, as well as a 30-page guide on just like how my philosophy to building decks. As well as we have an excellent Patreon Discord server where everybody is pretty awesome, and we work on a lot of my decks, and a lot of this deck came out of some of the work that came out of the Patreon Discord server. So shout out to everybody from that. I do also have my own line of custom tokens that are all original art tokens that you can find on my Etsy store, which is also just at Blackwing Studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm nothing if not consistent. I just kind of keep the same branding on everything. It's pretty easy to find wherever you want to find me.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much for coming on the channel. I really appreciate it. You know, I reached out of the blue, wanted to talk about Vynnset, and I mean, like, you really went into the details here. We're like, this is a good methodical video for those people who really want to play this hero. So I really appreciate the time you put in and all the stuff you do for the community. You know, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Have a great day.